Hi, everybody, and welcome back to CSUN Performance Ensemble Presents a Conversation with. I am not Jefferson Dano again. My name is Fernando Martinez. I will be one of your co-hosts.
I'm Samantha Garcia. I am your other co-host.
And today we have the pleasure of finally having somebody that is in the current performance ensemble. New guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hey, I'm Mitchell Boring. That's boring, like not exciting, dull, uninteresting. So I'll try my best not to embody my last name. And yeah, I'm excited to get started. My pronouns are he, his, and you can call me Mitch or Mitchell or Mr. Boring, as a lot of my professors like to say, because it's a lot of fun. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so um, I think the first thing that I wanted to mention was that the reason why I'm excited about today specifically is because we are finally transitioning in this podcast, right? Like we went from a lot of past members to finally having current members. And just like with the world right now, there's a lot of changes happening, there's a lot of things going on. And I think there's just so much to talk about, especially with how we've been dealing with things for um, the last 8 months. And yeah, and before I ask the first question that I want to ask, the other day I saw something that tripped me out so bad, and it literally said, do you want your sense of time to be warped real quick? And then the next thing said, in 4 months it's going to be March, and it threw me off so hard because we've been quarantining since March.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so a lot of the conversations for the last 8 months have been about adapting to new things, about transitioning, about work from home, about online, and of course the world in the political sense. um
I
and
wonder how many Zoom calls we've each been in. I'm sure it's in the hundreds or thousands of Zoom calls.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm sure the CEOs are happy with the money they're making, but um I think the first thing that I wanted to ask you, because like we were having a conversation earlier, and I brought up how you're the first guest that we have um that's obviously from the current ensemble, but you also didn't experience being pre-COVID PE member to
Mhm.
the current time. So what is it? So I guess like we're going to talk about that a little bit, but before that, I guess we want to know how you got introduced to PE, right? Because like you're a CTVA major. How did you
Mhm.
end up in performance ensemble?
Well, I have a good friend that I met when I transferred from junior college to CSUN, Amir. And Amir is like a super cool dude, and we would hang out living at the apartments on CSUN. Uh, and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this performance thing on this date, and I'd love for my friends to come see me." And I was like, "What?" And also in our we had like a little group chat for our friends, and he kept mentioning PE, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Amir has like a phys ed class or something." But I soon learned that it's not that; it's performance ensemble. And I went to the America performance and saw totally amazing performance. It blew my mind. Amazing music, amazing performance, and all the people I saw in there. Now, like a lot of them, I consider my friends from just meeting them in performance ensemble on Zoom. So I think just seeing that performance and meeting Jade, our director there, really inspired me to get involved. And she kept sending emails out to different departments. And I saw an email and I was like, "Hey, a performance ensemble, I remember that." So I joined the class.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. So there was like zero hesitation on your part then, huh? Like, was the interest like almost immediate after seeing that show, or?
Yeah, I actually got a chance to talk to Jade for a little bit after the show and talked about like performance ensemble, and like what it would, I could do, because I'm really into uh, music production, and I used to do improv acting, growing up in elementary and middle school. And so I just love performance, and it was so cool seeing like a college level, really professional and you're not, not just a play of James the Giant Peach. Like this is actually a performance and art for change, art for social change that actually has a really deep and powerful message. So I just wanted to be a part of it. So yeah, no hesitation when I saw that email. I just hit the class ad code right away.
Nice. So you're no stranger to performance either,
Cer-
right?
Certainly not. Although this type of performance on Zoom, where we're sort of piecing everything together one by one over in like digital formats, is a little different. But I think it's been a lot of fun and a bit of a challenge, but like a welcome challenge to get that kind of performance and emotion from a live performance to be on a digital medium.
Yeah, yeah, I can't even imagine. And just for clarification, when you said that you saw the America show, or was it in the fall or the spring?
That was in the fall. Yeah, it was in the
Okay.
fall.
The
And when I saw it,
in-person
I was
show.
the
Yeah.
in-person show in fall. And that was great. And I mean, Amir's piece was great. I specifically remember Holden, another PE member who's back again. Actually, now he's helping us. I think he did. Yeah, he's helping now. Seeing his piece and being really amazed by it, and thought it was like so funny and so powerful too. So it's really cool to now see him every Thursday on Zoom and have him, help me with and help, all of us with what we want to create.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's funny too, Sam, that like we have to differentiate it by saying the in-person show or the online show. Um,
Right.
I asked that specifically because, I mean, you got to experience PE, granted as an audience member, but you got to experience it in person and what that's like to have something that is so physical, right? That's to have something that is so like um, naked, I guess. Like it's just like a naked experience that you all have together, right? And it's just, I don't know. And so you got to experience that, um, but you signed up and knowing that it was going to be online. Was there anything there that um, I don't know, that maybe you wish you had, or what was the thought process going into this class, knowing that it was going to be fully online?
I really had sort of I know I wasn't hesitant. Like I thought it was going to be cool, but I was a little confused about how it might work. Like, how are we going to make a performance? But then I was thinking of ways. I thought, okay, well, we could make videos, or we could do stuff on Zoom, or we could perform ourselves in our rooms with our own video cameras and then put them all together. And that's sort of what it's ending up to be like. But I've been pleasantly surprised at how well it's been working and how cool some of the stuff that we're making is, and how the change in medium. Like when I went to the PE performance in last fall and got to experience it in person, had people come out in the audience and like rip up piece of papers in front of me. I'm sad that we won't be able to do that sort of thing, but the stuff that we can do with editing and music, and it's like a lot more precise now, I'm excited for.
And that's amazing. I feel like for you, having a background in CTVA and production, music production, media production, that this could be a real playground for you, I feel, and whoever else is involved in media. And you can really like share some of your knowledge with the other students about how to other creative ways that they can make their performance as raw as possible, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because there's actually so many talented digital artists in the class too. Like I mentioned Amir a lot because we're very close and we talk about production with things like he's really talented making music, digitally and with like synths, and we have a lot of great video editors too. And
I've heard
that's
his
mostly
music. It's amazing. Yeah.
it is so
Mhm.
cool, and I'm glad that in both in person and over Zoom we got to sort of jam together and make music together. So it's totally cool to see what everyone's doing with video editing, and I'm glad I get to be a part of that and talk to people and maybe help people too. Like I helped last night. We was it last night? No, Thursday night. We needed to record something, but no one in the room was the host, so we couldn't record on Zoom. So everyone's like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" And I just had a super easy way to record my desktop, and got to do that for everyone, and can just like record audio like here on the microphone.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's cool to have this sort of space to myself where I feel like I'm competent, and to share that with other people and get knowledge from them too about their editing and video skills.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out too, because like obviously when you have something like performance ensemble, like it's not something that's very restricting in terms of what's acceptable or not acceptable, right? Like you can be an artist of any creed, like it doesn't matter what your art is, right? Like you can bring that in. It's just funny how it played out that for when we do have like a stay-at-home performance ensemble, like a lot of you are so in tune with production, because it's something that we never really had before. Like we didn't, like we used to do like Facebook live recordings, and like that's it. Like that's how we used to record our shows. I don't know. It's crazy how much that's changed. And you sort of brought up something about I guess the way that you guys are doing things now in PE. And I think it's a perfect time to sort of transition into talking about PE's fall show. It's the reason why we have this podcast in the first place, is to sort of, like just get excited about the show and see what's going on and sort of get the behind the scenes. And that's why it's so exciting to have you here. So I guess if you want to start talking to us about what's been going on at the last almost 2.5 months or so in PE, like what's been going on every week.
Yeah.
Sure, I can give you a glimpse. Well, I met you when you joined, Fernando, in our classes, so it was very cool at the sort of start of the semester seeing you come in every once in a while and give us advice and talk to us about the podcast and other stuff that's going on with the social media. So that's cool that you have experience there too. What we've been doing recently is really just starting to get all our pieces together. So we were doing actually I have an extra rock. So we were doing these things called Rock the Vote, where we would get the rock there, where we would paint on rocks and then go leave them places with some nice messages. So I painted a rock about voting and left it around before the polls, and just had some nice messages and also some of our hashtags and tag performance ensemble. So that was one really cool project we did, was Rock the Vote. We got to do some really cool painting on these rocks and leave them around. And some people are so talented with the paintbrush. I mean, I could not believe. You should check our social media for some of those, because they were really cool. And some other projects we did, we've been doing, we did like a poem where we all read a poem together and clipped it together as sort of like a precursor to our big performance. And now for the last maybe 6 or maybe even 8 weeks now, we've really been focusing on the big performance that's happening in December. So we each have sort of our own individual pieces or like specific pieces that we're working on with a group, and we're going to put them all together. So I'm doing a project pretty much mostly on my own, a script that I wrote and editing that I'm doing. But I'm very thankful that we have a resource of all these people who are game to do stuff, because I got voice recordings from almost everyone in the entire class. So it's going to be so cool when I make the video and just have every single person's voice. I've been doing voice recording for other people's projects. We've all been like helping each other with editing videos for their personal projects. There's projects that are being done on TikTok, like with the TikTok video editing app, which I think is cool. And some other like really experimental like dance pieces that are being cut together with music made by Amir, or music made by one of our other members, Tony, who's a really talented musician. There's just so much cool stuff happening in so many different forms, like in video form, in like physical dance form that you're going to see on a screen, and music. So it's going to be super, super cool.
Wow.
Wow.
Fix my focus there. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, there you are.
There I am. Yeah,
You're fading into the distance
I
for
know
a little bit.
I was fading. Yeah, see that's one of the downfalls of Zoom is like with lag and with audio quality and video and
Yes.
stuff. So we've been trying to mitigate that as much as possible, and trying to get as high quality audio and video as we can. But it's a struggle sometimes when everything's done between like a Mac and a PC and someone's phone and someone's iPad.
Yeah, there's so much asynchronous time and media that you have to work with that just kind of like may slow down the process because of the learning curve that you guys have just been given. But from the sounds of it, it's like, from you being a current student, the first one we'll be talking to, it sounds like what I thought it was going to be, just a whole world of new ways to construct a performance. And it's almost like an evolution, it
Yeah.
feels, of of this platform. And it makes me so excited and hopeful to hear how well you guys are all working together. And I just wanted to know, only if you want, I know if you don't want any spoilers, that's fine, maybe give us just like a theme or something about maybe your own personal piece that might tie in with the whole theme of the show, that you're working on. What is the main idea of what your own individual project is focused on?
Absolutely. And there are two great words you brought up, asynchronous and evolution. That those are both totally key in, because most of the work actually isn't being done in the couple hours we have during performance ensemble. Most of everyone's work is being done on their own, when they go out later and film themselves, because we have PE late at night, so we can't go outside and record something in the dark. So we have to wait until the weekend and record our stuff in the day or whenever. So a lot of it is happening outside the classroom. So I've been making it like, I have almost everyone's phone number in my phone right now, and I've been calling them and saying like, hey, by the way, do you mind sending me that audio today if you get a chance? Stuff like that. So it is a total evolution in performance, like with all these different tools that we have. And to sort of touch on my piece and what I'm doing, it's gonna be, I had a script that I found, just things I found interesting about the way language is used in politics and on social media and things like this. And that's sort of what everyone's performances are going to be about. Not to spoil anything specific, but everyone is talking about their, how they're feeling in over the last 8 months. A lot of it is about sort of that trapped feeling or that worrying feeling, or about hope. A lot of it's about hope too. And mine is a bit of a dissection. It is an interesting word to say there. Maybe not a dissection. Maybe just like a closer look at things, at sort of like a juxtaposition of words. So a word like terrorist when referring to something versus freedom fighter. Or when talking about specifically what was happening in August, when some people will say riot versus protest, and those things have totally different connotations and meanings, talking about the same event. So my piece is going to be about getting like really close and looking at how language is sermonic and how language affects people's beliefs about specific events. Like when talking about, even just talking about something simple as like a boycott of a company versus calling it a strike. Boycotts sound like good. You're boycotting this company, and for equal rights and wages and things like that, versus those people who are striking out there and slowing down the process. And I can't go into Walmart because there's a strike outside. That's pretty much the whole piece. It's going to be just a lot of those different comparisons of language about the same idea.
That was really cool. I think just to go off of what both of you said on the last 2 minutes or something, starting with the word evolution too, because like that really stood out to me. And because just going back to last semester, right? Like you had students that had a transition in the middle of the semester to online, and they did what they could, and the pieces were great. But for some reason, in my mind, I thought, well, it's going to be harder to just do everything online from the get-go, because like, sure, there's no like disturbance of the organization, right? Like, it's not like you're suddenly being jolted into something that you weren't prepared for. It's like, it's going to be all online, but it's going to be on Zoom. And lately, Jade has been doing really good about having a lot of students join. So like, you guys are a big class, and I'm like, how are you guys going to do this on Zoom? It's just, maybe a part of me was a little bit worried. Knowing the history of PE and how we always tend to like get our shows ready in like the last 2 weeks when we have the whole semester, had me worried. But it just sounds like you all have a lot of things already down, you know. Like, you have the theme down, obviously, but it's just like thinking, just having all these ideas for how you want to get your message out there is like incredible to me. And particularly yours, because like, that's the thing too, like, you think about, like, well, if the theme is sort of political, right? Because like, everything that are about our lives for the last 8 months have been politicized, right? Even our own health has been politicized with the pandemic and everything. But I think that's the beauty of performance, is that you can do something that is just about words. Like, all you're doing is working with words. That's it. And you're talking about words, you know, like, you're using words to talk about words, and somehow that becomes art. And just from the sounds of it, it sounds beautiful. Like, I'm excited to see something like that. But yeah, I don't know, it blows my mind how all of you guys are just like so ready to, like, I don't know, do what you have to do to get it done, right? Like, because you're right, you have a class that ends at 6 p.m. or 6:45. I forget what time it is. 6:45,
Yeah,
right?
6:45.
Yeah, and you
We're
all
starting
have,
at 4 o'clock, so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you all have lives aside from school too, I'm sure. And so like, it's insane how like you have to um quickly adapt to everything, and you all have each other's backs and are pretty quick to respond to one another. And I mean, it sounds to me like it could also be a headache to have all these people like sending links and sending files and doing all this stuff, right? It just sounds like a lot, but I mean, it's working out, so that's pretty cool. Um, and I think that with saying that, I think it'd also be interesting to know, has there been any sort of setbacks or any hardships? Because there are a lot of you, you're doing something that is uh, obviously been about feeling trapped, and you know, like all the political issues. Has there been any setbacks in trying to get this done?
definitely, yeah. There are conveniences to being online, and conveniences to not having to wake up and drive to CSUN and then go into a building to do performance ensemble. Everyone can just sort of come online no matter where they are. We have people join from their cars driving home from work for the first 20 minutes. They're listening on speakerphone. So that's one convenience, but a lot of it ends up being really, really tough, because you can't decide when your internet's randomly going to go out, or you
Mm.
can't decide if your mic is going to mess up. I had to buy a brand new webcam because mine broke in the first couple of weeks of class. So that was a struggle. Also, yeah, like you were mentioning before about like links, it's easier for things to kind of get lost. Especially, we'll send something in the Zoom chat, and I think only the host has access to the logs for that. So someone might send their email right before the end of class, and then class ends, and like, oh, I guess I can't save that email. How am I going to get so and so's contact information?
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the challenges, but I think the conveniences and the challenges sort of play off each other, and it makes for an interesting and evolved type of performance class. Now, I wasn't in performance ensemble uh, when it was meeting in person, but I have been in acting classes and different performance organizations. And it's hard not to like stand around and do a warm up face to face. We still do warm ups in performance ensemble, but there's a delay. So if we're doing things where we have to like mimic each other, everyone is going like, you know, like this instead of this smooth back and forth. So the conversation is interrupted occasionally by these internet issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny that you're still doing warm-ups. Because Sir's leading them, right?
Yeah, Sir is great. Sir is great with warm-ups. We do dancing, and we do like funny face stuff, and we'll play with the camera and things like this, fun stuff like that.
Wow.
Um, so it is fun actually after spending all day in other classes where I just sort of sit and like write down notes, and then finally having like getting up and moving around and talking to people and standing up and all that. It's definitely a more interesting learning experience than watching a lecture on my monitor for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, that'll definitely do it, and that's definitely what makes Performance Ensemble such a great program. It's like a break in the pattern of your usual everyday class structure, and it makes me just so glad to hear from you, and just it seems like it's thriving. And are you excited for the show? Do you think it's gonna be well?
Absolutely. Yes, I think we have a lot of stuff put together right now. So mostly what we need to do is sort of just get those last finishing touches on things. But I truly believe if we just took everything we had right now, mashed it up and sent it out, it would still be an amazing performance. And
Wow, that says a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we still have time to, make it as as perfect as we can. Maybe not perfect, because that's part of art is not being entirely
Yeah.
perfect. So I think
yeah,
that's sort of the yeah. I gotta say I'm really proud of what we've all come together and done. Um, Versus thinking about like when we first came into Zoom and met everyone for the first time. Like we had no clue what it was going to be like or what we were going to make, and now we have an idea and we have a product.
yeah. So this is the thing. So Sam and our other host, right, tend to be a lot better about taking notes when it comes to these podcasts. I
Uh-huh.
never take notes. Sam knows this. I don't take notes. But every time I hear people talk, it's just like through you two having a conversation, it like sparks so many ideas and questions that I have for you. And I have two questions, right? I know that I talk a lot and they're very long winding. But the first question is, um, or let me preface it by saying that you brought up this interesting point that a part of art is not always having something that's perfect, right? And that's interesting to me because you have this like camp of people who believe that once something is recorded and mediated, it's no longer performance. Like it loses all of its value because it's not face to face. And like I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's an interesting point of view, right? Because it does change what the performance is. And so I guess my question to you is like, do you feel that your performance loses any value because it's being done online? A lot of the pieces are being done asynchronously, and even though you're not necessarily trying to make everything absolutely perfect, you do have the ability to polish things that are not polished, right? Like, do you think it loses anything because of that?
Well, I'm no high level scholar on performance theory and all that, but I think it's different. It's not. I don't think it's any better or worse than standing in front of someone and doing a performance. I just think it's different, and it's good in different ways and bad in different ways. And having the ability to make everything line up exactly where you want it and to have it be something that you want before actually sending it out versus coming out on stage and I'm no stranger to having bad performances or having a bad day when it comes to speaking or anything like that. But that won't happen on this recorded type of thing, and it's certainly still art. I can't be the judge of someone to say whether it's like good proper performance by the definition of the word, but it's still art.
Mhm.
And we were performative when we were making it, so I would call it performance art. So I don't think it's worse than in person, but I do think that it's great in different ways.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Evolved. It's evolved into something
Evolved.
new. Evolved. The
That's
word
the
of the
word.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was,
Asynchronous evolution. That's the word. That's the word of the day.
yeah, that
Exactly. And
was,
we're asynchronous right now, we're all in different places right now, but we're able to commune and have this podcast without
Yeah, have
anything.
this awesome like hanging out. Like people
yeah,
can if people can still hang out online and on Zoom, they can perform online on Zoom. They could do anything. I just feel like it's an endless world of creativity and resources that like which, and I feel like you're all on that train, which just makes me so glad.
yeah, it's
Yeah. Oh
exciting.
yeah.
That was so, and that's the thing, like, you obviously, like, nobody has to be a scholar to, like, give their response. Like, that was said so well, like that, like, I
You flatter me.
wholeheartedly agree with what you said.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's true though. Like, it's
Magnificent.
being an artist or being creative or being performative in the act of creating it, whether or not you're gonna fix it or not, like, that's what performance is, right? Because you were being performative. So that's a wonderful way of looking at it. And I think that leads me to my next question that I wanted to ask you, because you sort of brought up but you two were talking about what the theme of the show is, right? And how a lot of it alludes to what's been happening in this country for the last 8 months. And it's crazy to think that of everything that's been happening, right? So, like, being forced to, or not being forced, being asked to stay at home for the well-being of others, for your own well-being. Who remembers, like, the wasps or whatever, the killer bees or the hornets, right?
Oh man, it all mixes together. There's just so much
Yeah,
crazy stuff
yeah.
happening.
There's that. There was Tiger King. There's all these things, and
Oh
obviously,
yeah.
This year was Tiger King. Wow.
yeah, and people, yeah, people jumped off that boat so quick. But yeah, like, it goes from things that were sort of funny like that to things that were a lot more serious, right? Like, the murder of a lot of Black people in this country by law enforcement and the protests that happened because of it. The sort of running up to the elections and how insane all of that was. And even, like, as of recording this right now, like, we have a new president elect. So, like, there's been a lot of things happening and changing, and nothing has stayed
Consistent.
consistent. Yeah, nothing has been consistent. It's such a weird year. Um, so, like, if you guys are sort of tapping into literally the last 8 months, I can't even imagine how many ideas you had, how many sort of different thoughts that you sort of put on the table. Right? So, the question is, with all that being said, and with all of that being considered by all of you, what is ultimately the goal for this performance? Like, what do you personally seek to get out of this? And what is your hope for the ensemble to get out of this show?
I'm so glad you brought that up and you brought up about how many different things happened this year, because we sort of ran into that trouble too. Is that at the beginning of the semester, when we're talking about different, like, current events, by the time we make the full thing in December, who knows what's happened? Who knows what is relevant
Oh
at that
yeah.
point? And it's pretty much like
Tricky.
yeah, exactly. It's tricky. It's pretty much like every week that something new is happening that is relevant to be talked about and relevant to sort of make a message about. So we had some. I know I personally wanted to talk about the shooting in Kenosha, and now, I mean, while it's still, I think, fairly relevant, and there are plenty of things to be said about it, in December it might not be the case anymore. There
Mhm.
might be whole totally different things to talk about, and that was something Jade, our director, warned us about, was that we have to be thinking about being a little bit more timeless and a little bit more
Mm.
conscious of how our messages and how our rhetoric relates to when it is going to be performed, and I know it'll last forever because we'll have a video of it, and that's great. That's something you can't always do with a live performance. You can't always have sort of the same timelessness of a video we put up. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And as for like getting something out of the performance and sort of making our grand statement, I think we are trying to process and highlight and express the trauma that we've all been feeling in different ways. We've felt the trauma of having to leave school, having to leave houses, having to leave friends, having to see what was happening on the news or being affected by the same types of thing on the news. And that trauma is really what's propelling, I think, each and every one of these performances to be something beautiful, turning that trauma into beautiful art and trying to, in the end, make a hopeful message about ourselves and about the world. And I hope we can share that experience and we can share that message with as many people as would love to see it, as would love to be a part of it. But we're making it either way. Even if no one sees it, we're making it.
I feel this is the thing. I'm not gonna lie, right? This morning I woke up to the news of what's been happening, and I felt good, right? I felt like something was lifted, right? I've been seeing a lot of things and hearing a lot of things, like physically in my surroundings, that sound very positive. But even just like hearing what you had to say is a part of it. Like that was so, I don't know, it felt profound. It felt very positive. I don't know, it almost feels like such a perfect time to sort of dwindle down on our episode today. And I'm saying this a little bit begrudgingly because I want to talk more, but I feel like you're going to have to come back and talk to us some more for a part 2, I think.
I'm
and even
down.
a little after this podcast.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So again,
thank you guys.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest and having so many insightful things to say. Because they were. And with that being said, this has been the CSUN Performance Ensemble presents A Conversation With. I am not Jefferson Denham. My name is Fernando Martinez.
I'm Samantha Garcia.
I'm Mitchell Boring. Do we have a sponsor? Is there a sponsor?
Sponsored by, we have Dunkin' Donuts.
Donuts.
Nice.
And H2O over there, I saw.
Yeah, some H2O. Yeah. Drink water, everybody. Make sure to drink plenty of water. It's
most
free.
important.
Right.
Yes.
So now we're all gonna synchronously wave goodbye.
Okay.
While I try to figure out how to stop recording. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.